Hope is back in Indianapolis. What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video. And today, I'm going to be taking a deep dive into the 2023 Indianapolis Colts. If you guys are new, of course, we'd love for you guys to stick around. Been doing a video every single day this month, which, as y'all can tell, takes a little bit of a toll, but I love you guys. It makes it worth it, even though the series doesn't always perform well. So thank you guys for always showing the love and support that you guys always do. Let's hop right into this. I'm going to give a breakdown of the depth chart, and then we're going to go into the records predictions, and we'll go a little bit deeper into the records predictions on this one, because I think I need to explain it a little bit more. Let's start off with the offense. If you guys are new to the series, I go skill position to line. Then for defense, I go line to skill position, just the way it goes. So quarterback. This is based off of OurLads.com. They have Minshew as a starter. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be it. So let's talk about both. Steichen obviously is extremely comfortable with Gardner Minshew. I think he'll have perfectly fine success, especially if they start out the year with Gardner Minshew getting some momentum there. I think Anthony Richardson, I said this on the I'm Bring the Juice podcast, so you guys can go check them out. You guys, if you guys are Colts fans, and you know the minute amount of you that are watching this video probably have already seen their videos. So if you haven't already, go check them out. Gotta love my boys over there. We got Cody, and I believe it's Dustin over there. Regardless, love Cody. He's awesome. He has his own show as well, so you guys can go check out the Cody Felger show. But I said on a quarterback's video for them, I said, hey, in the perfect world, I think Anthony Richardson is the best possible product. Even if CJ Stroud's on the board, I think that Steichen's ability to work with a quarterback with great mobility skills, an arm that needs, refinement, and just an overall really good work ethic is a perfect match for Anthony Richardson over all the other guys. The sky's the limit, and I think it was a hand-in-glove fit. So for me, that's why when I saw Anthony Richardson get taken there at 4, a lot of people said, okay, well, that's like a BB plus pick. Anthony Richardson has a lot to work on. To me, I gave that one of my few A pluses. I thought that was a phenomenal pick. Might have given an A++, but it is number 4 overall. I don't think I did that. Regardless, I think that it's a perfect fit for the long run. And there are things that will be needed to be worked on. But even that one video that we saw from training camp where he's rolling out and throwing into these 2 little bucket holes, does that show anything? No, but you can see the excitement that he has when he was able to throw into that tiny window. And to me, that's awesome. Like, again, I believe the same age, if not just a little bit older now at 22 than Anthony Richardson. And I understand that excitement. It's good to see someone my age get genuinely excited about something like that. It shows that he has a love and a passion for football. When I fell in love with him was after that Florida State game. He threw, I think, 25 or 33%, something extremely low. And you can tell, one, he has glasses on. So I'm like, all right, well, this dude's serious. He takes the game seriously. Jokes aside, he looked really like he was beating himself up. Pretty sure that I think they still might have won that game. He still had some great throws in that game. And he still was beating himself up over it, which most quarterbacks would. But just the way and how genuine he was about his self-criticism, that made me a true believer in the work ethic. I don't really care about the performance on the field as long as we see flashes, as long as he's showing work ethic, because football is not a 1 or 2 year sport. It's for these guys, especially if they have really good work ethic, this is a 4, 5, 10, 20-year career. And if you make marginal progressions year after year, you're going to do a lot better than the guy who's here and just does this. I'm telling you, here to here to here to here. Instantly by year 3, you're better. And then we've seen these guys take these year 3 jumps who have that ability to be able to work on themselves. Josh Allen, he had a pretty rough start to his career. He wasn't elite. He was making bad throws. He was inaccurate. And then he worked on his throwing mechanics. All of a sudden, we think of him as arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm sorry. That's just been the mold that's worked. Jalen Hurts, he doesn't have a great arm. He's still kind of inaccurate when he came into the league. He's a good runner. All of a sudden, he has great work ethic. He's working out with the linemen. And then you see his progression started taking steps up. And all of a sudden, he beat that threshold to where he was starting to be able to win his team games and not just kind of keep them in it. And that's why they pushed for the Super Bowl, which is great, and which is why I believe in the Eagles so much. That's going to be the same thing for me with the Colts. Of course, y'all know my first ever records prediction for the Colts. I had them going in, I believe, playing the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. That was a total bust. But, I kind of have like a affinity for the Colts. regardless, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a great long-term fit, regardless of how you guys interact with this video, because I know the records prediction is going to be a bit underwhelming for how much I'm hyping up Anthony, but I do think that he will have obviously some stumbles early on. Dude's only started, I believe, 13 games in his entire career. That's not going to be super easy to be able to compete at the next level right away. The game speeds up and you're still getting used to college speed. So keep that in mind. But I think that there's a ton of hope. I think Anthony Richardson's an awesome player, so keep that in mind. But yeah, Gardner Minshew is going to be a really good gap quarterback, and that was an amazing signing in my eyes because Gardner he adds that extra emphasis for Anthony Richardson to maintain that work ethic because you have someone behind you that already has familiarity with the head coach, and that could definitely get somebody's gears going to make sure that they stay at the top of their game. Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor. He's a really damn good back. He's one of my favorite guys. He was my RB4 in that class solely due to fumbling and the amount of wear and tear he's had. Do I think Jonathan Taylor will have another 10 years as a running back in the league? No. That's just the unfortunate truth. That's the hard truth about the NFL. But I do think he has another 3 or 4 really good years in him. And maybe 2 of those years are all pro level. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he has another 5 years of all pro level. Regardless, you have a very consistent back that is very good at taking the pressure off of a young QB, which is why I have a ton of hope for this team in the next 2 to 3 years to actually be able to make a push. Because we're seeing also a lot of quarterbacks who are either going to be siphoning a ton of cash or else retiring soon in the AFC on those competitive teams. But other running backs of note, you got Evan Hull, who I love. I don't even know if he's going to make the team, but I really had to give him a shout out because I didn't include him in the notable backups, but Zach Moss as well, part of that Nyheim Hines trade to Buffalo. Big fan of that. Wide receivers wise, Alec Pierce was he's my wide receiver 5 last year, if you count this past draft as this year. So the 2022 NFL draft, getting all these numbers mixed up now. 2022 draft, he was my wide receiver 5. I had him above even Chris Olave, which sounds insane, especially nowadays. But I thought Chris Olave's fit on his team was incredible, and that's why we think of him the way we do. So I had him above Jameson Williams. I think that is, at this moment, a perfectly fine solution. But I have a lot of faith in Alec Pierce. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver. He's already had some great flashes. I got to see him in person here at SMU and see Cincinnati whoop our ass every single year. It is what it is. And then you have Michael Pittman Jr., who was at my high school. Got to watch him play in person plenty of times. And, I obviously have a big affinity for him. Showed up at some of our 7-on-7 games. So go Oaks. But, he's been able to prove to be an amazing fringe 1, wide receiver 2 type of guy. And I think he can definitely move up into a solidified number 1 role, which I think a lot of people think he's there. But for me, my mentality is still I want him to produce like a super elite receiver and just really prove to everybody that he is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, which is very difficult to do. We have a lot of really good wide receivers in the NFL. Slot wide receiver, Isaiah McKenzie, very nice addition there from, speaking of Buffalo. He's going to be someone who could replace that Paris Campbell role when Paris Campbell is healthy. But another guy of note is Josh Downs, 3rd round selection. I think that is incredible. You're getting guys who I have a lot of faith in. Josh Downs reminds me of a younger version of a guy who's on my Steelers and hopefully stays healthier than my guy on the Steelers, Calvin Austin. That whip route that he's so famous for is a great example of it. I think Josh Downs could have a huge success in this offense right here. So looking at the tight end as well, Jelani Woods, one of my guys again from a year ago, a little bit over. And fun fact for you guys who do remember, in my last mock draft for the Colts that year that I did actually on Bring the Juice, we went Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, and Bernard Ryman. So pretty cool that y'all actually did that slightly different order than what we did. But regardless, still pretty damn cool. Jelani Woods is an athletic freak. I think that it could, if he doesn't continue to polish, be one of those weaker positions on the team. But even against my Steelers, I saw him start going off, and I think he could be a super weapon at tight end. And you guys have a really deep tight end core. I debated putting it actually as one of the best units because of depth. You have Will Mallory as tight end 4. And I think that he could be a solid tight end 3, fringe 2 in the NFL. You got Mo Alley Cox, who's a really damn good guy. He had a consistent career there for a hot minute. And then you have Kylan Granson, go SMU, pony up there as another tight end. So you have 3 tight ends who are really damn solid, all twos or, fringe twos for sure. Offensive line wise, Bernard Ryman backed up by Blake Freeland now. I think that competition could bring out the best in Bernard. I was a lot lower on Bernard Ryman than other people were. So naturally, I'm not too surprised. I'm not shocked at the fact that Bernard is not an elite left tackle. Is definitely an area where I could still see improvement, but I don't think that the cards are out. I don't think he's a bust. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. Quentin Nelson hasn't really been himself since his injury, and I think he can still bounce back. I think he's still a very talented offensive lineman. He's one of the best, and some guys just have a little bit of a stumble in their career, and I think he'll get back on track. Ryan Kelly is a beast. I love Ryan Kelly. Will Fries is the guy who I continue trying to just kick his ass out of that offensive line, and it hasn't really worked so far because he's still there. But I do think that's one of those weak points on the team for sure, and in a team that probably needs that consistent protection to give Anthony Richardson that time, to give Jonathan Taylor those holes. It does certainly concern me. Braden Smith is a very talented right tackle. So overall, you have some really good pieces on this offense. This is, again, a foundation for success. I think if in the second round, I know that we'll talk about Julius Brents in a second, if you guys ended up going after Osiris Torrance, Anthony Richardson played with Osiris Torrance. So if you went Osiris Torrance instead of, Brent Grimes, not Brent Grimes, jeepers. Hopefully, Julius Brents is as good as Brent Grimes. But if you went after that instead of Julius Brents, I have a weird feeling that you guys would have been able to possibly have a couple more wins this year. But it's not always the short game. It's also the long game. This is coming up class is insane at offensive interior. So we're going to be seeing a lot of love there. But overall, obviously Jonathan Taylor is going to be the best of the best. And in terms of the positions, in terms of what has been proven, I think a B grade is perfectly fine. You don't have superstar power yet, but I think you have the foundation for it for sure. A-Rich is going to be the rookie of the year. Alec Pierce, I think, is going to take a step up into his own. We saw that actually a lot of talking about Buffalo today, but Buffalo drafted Justin Shorter, one of his wide receivers, has a similar height status to Alec Pierce, similar release package to him as well. I think there could be a lot of synergy right there. And of course, Josh Downs could probably step in there for Isaiah McKenzie. Now we're going to go after the defense. Kwity Paye, he's one of my favorite guys from that draft class. Hasn't fully emerged yet, but I think that he's going to kick ass. I do think that he could take a huge step up and be a bona fide stud. You got Grover Stewart in there. I love that. He's a really consistent dude, and I just like the veteran presence. DeForest Buckner is DeForest Buckner. There's been trade rumors here and there, but I honestly think that staying on this team for another year, 2 or 3 would be best for him because it'll show that he built a franchise from the ground up, and he's going to get paid handsomely for it because there is that free money. You don't need to ring chase, I believe, when you have such a high potential quarterback in a perfect system. So I do think it could end up paying off. Samson Ebukam, I really like the fact that you guys have a very consistent defensive line. No tomato cans whatsoever. EJ Speed, I was actually going to put him as one of the weaknesses before I just tried to look up and do a little bit more research. And dude, this guy's actually really freaking good. He ended off the year last year with, I believe, a 90 grade in PFF in his final game. So great for him. I love to see that momentum coming into the new year at Sam. Now we have Shaq. As long as he's healthy, he's a freaking beast. Zaire Franklin, 12.5% missed tackle rate's not necessarily something that gets me going. And he isn't the most consistent producer. I love Bobby Okereke. I think that, I'd rather have Bobby Okereke here with EJ Speed at Sam than Zaire Franklin, but nothing atrocious. Jess Blackman at safety, I think it's fine. I think he's a solid safety. Then you have Rodney Thomas, 7th round pick from last year, or again 2022. But interesting. I love to see it, and I hope that he's going to be able to step up into that role. But I highly doubt that he's going to be that good. Looking at even the PFF statistics, I don't have enough confidence in him. So definitely one of the weaknesses on the team. Kenny Moore is a very talented nickelback. I love that for the team. Isaiah Rodgers is another guy who's a very talented player. Julius Brent's 2nd round selection. It's good to see that he's already being listed or projected as the starter, which, again, not very much competition here, but it is what it is. But then you got defensive tackle, Adetomiwa Adebawore. We had him in the top 50. unbelievable. He ran a 4.49 at 280 pounds, and that's perfect for a team that could certainly use him as an edge rusher or as a defensive interior. Like that flexibility with that, veteran presence is awesome. Great for him. Taven Bryan, you got good depth on the defensive interior. And then you got Deo Odeingbo, who I believe was a second-round selection that same year with Kwity Paye, Cameron McGrone, Darius Rush. You have dudes there. And if I'm not mistaken, in the 7th round, you drafted a guy who I had as a top 32 dude in Jalen Jones. So you have a ton of talent on your team. So lots to love. Lots to love. But again, you have some, I think I should probably boost that overall grade. I'll probably give it a B. I have a little bit of concern over the corner power. I think that there's some good dudes, but we're seeing again in this NFL, the talent level, the receiving corps go up, up, up. So I think that probably like 4 years ago, this would be a perfectly solid corner core, but I am certainly worried about the secondary. I am. And I think that you're starting to need to get that Dallas level two top tier corners to be able to fully compete. You got obviously James Bradbury as well as Darius Slay leading the charge there for Philadelphia, who's in the Super Bowl. So I am genuinely concerned about that, but overall, really solid team. I think that Adebawore could end up being one of those steals of the draft. Julius Brents is in a great position for it. So 8 and 9, yeah, y'all are gonna lose your shit. I already know it, but just hold your horses. Of course, it's better than what y'all did last year, but you start off Jacksonville. I think that, it's not very difficult to believe that Jacksonville can beat you guys again in week number 1. You guys are infamously the team that, Gardner Minshew beat. So, well, there you go. Gardner Minshew full circle here. Before, he said let's continue this. And I think he lost the next 16 games or 15 games. So funny there. But I think Anthony Richardson in the system or Gardner Minshew has a better start to the year than CJ Stroud does. I think the overall system's a bit better too. Baltimore's Baltimore. You got the Rams here. I just don't have faith in the Rams. I don't. I look at the team and, the offense honestly is pretty fine. I kind of knocked the Los Angeles Rams saying they have nothing. Their offense is perfectly fine. It comes to that defense. And I think that, they're having a guy who ran, if I'm not mistaken, a 4.7 40 starting as a boundary corner. And he's not doing it because he's good. He's doing it because he's there, and there's not anything else. I'm genuinely scared for the Rams this year. I don't know why. Aaron Donald didn't retire, except $30 million a year gets you to kind of stay. But Matt Stafford decided to potentially retire. Sean McVay decided to potentially retire. There are rumors out there that these guys are kind of done, and I'm concerned because I honestly think they should have done that. Especially if they don't want to tarnish their reputation. It's going to be a pretty bad year for the Rams. Maybe they're just saying, hey, we want to have some fun, make some money, and we're not ready to give up just yet. I think the team's kind of given up, though. Then you got Tennessee there. Tennessee's a tough game. I decided to split it with y'all based on location, but both teams that are going to be much more heavy on the emphasis of running back rather than the quarterback early on. You got Jacksonville again. Y'all get swept because you're going to Jacksonville at that point. A little bit tough to do that. Cleveland's a good team. Can't really blame us for doing that one. New Orleans, decided to give y'all that one. People are now shitting on Derek Carr, and I'm notorious for being the guy who didn't believe in Derek Carr. All of a sudden, I'm a defender of Derek Carr. It's a weird feeling, it really is. It was I'm forgetting who else it was, but I think it was even Brian Breezy. I started defending the guy. When or Isaiah Foskey, I was defending the guy when people were dropping him to the 3rd, 4th round. I was like, come on. I'm the guy who was notoriously against this dude. I'm at that same point with Derek Carr, and I think it's a little bit unfair for him because I think New Orleans Saints is a perfectly fine team. We'll get to, I think actually I already did that division. Pretty sure I did. No, I didn't. It might be, I think it's the next division up. I'm trying to remember because I already built the slide decks for all these. I'm trying to remember what order I put them in. But regardless, New Orleans is a very talented team. Carolina, another very talented team. But, I think that going there, it's going to be tough. So, yeah, New Orleans, I ended up giving y'all the W because you're at home. But, again, got to emphasize they're a good team. Carolina, it's very tough to go to Carolina after you're being in a dome in Indianapolis. Then you got New England there. It's late in the year. I think that environment is a huge factor. People don't really think about that. Players are all worth being in the NFL, or a good amount of them are. So sometimes the weather advantage does make a big difference. Tampa Bay, you're at home as well, helps. Then you're in Tennessee. You're in Tennessee. So I said we're going to split the game that way. I think both teams are pretty solid, but, I think weather could certainly be a big factor there in comfortability. Then you have Cincinnati, again, biome, talent. It's very tough. Pittsburgh, I have a lot of faith in my Steelers this year. I don't even think they made the playoffs, though, in my record prediction. But then you got Atlanta there as well. Atlanta's a good team. So, again, we'll get into that probably this coming week. Then you got Vegas and Houston taking W's at the end of the year because I think Anthony Richardson's going to be in full momentum there. And plus, he's going to be kind of pissed after losing a couple straight. So, overall, I still think that you guys are tied with the Tennessee Titans. You're tied number 2 in your division. That doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs because, again, the AFC is unbelievable. You're 8-9, and you're tied 11th in the conference. If not mistaken, you guys, if you end up being at the bottom of that totem pole, you are 14th. And you were 15th last year. But you were in the range of 8th to 11th in terms of draft pick, which from 4th, that is a very noticeable improvement. And I think the year after you're making the playoffs, and I think the year after that, you could start competing. That's my genuine thought process. I'm not doing that to get less dislikes on the video. It's my genuine thought process. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys on the 4th side.